To line up the insert, I'm going to rely on a framing square, which needs to be squared with the front of the workbench. Then I'll trace the perimeter of the insert. Now drill out a few holes to pass the jigsaw blade through, and in this case I use 4 holes, 1 in each corner, and that will be my starting point for the jigsaw. And while cutting, the goal is to stay as close to the line as possible. The closer you are to the line, the tighter the insert would be. Now the goal here is to go slow, let the jigsaw do the work. All you have to do is just control the jigsaw and don't let it get away from you. Although a straight line would look nice, in this case you do not have to be perfect. As long as the insert fit and it's easy to take it in and out, then that should be fine. Now although I'd like it to be, the main focus of the tool is to not be squared up with the insert, but squared up with the front edge of the workbench. These strips of wood will support the insert from the inside. Now clamp the strips of wood along the perimeter of the opening and then screw them from underneath. And if all goes well, your insert should fit in just fine. And now I'm going to add 2 holes on the front and 2 holes in the back to hold the insert in place. So it turns out I didn't make the insert big enough for the circular saw. Now the width of it was just fine. It was just the measurement from the front to the back, which means I had to open up the hole a little more, and I also had to remake the inserts. I used a framing square to help me line up the holes on the insert. So I needed a way to keep the bit straight while I was drilling. I used 2 pieces of scrap wood, screwed those together, and that helped a ton. And now that the hole is drilled, I need to make sure when I install the screw that it's flush with the top of the wood. So I use a countersink bit, or you can use a larger drill bit to help you with this process. So there's a couple ways you can duplicate the holes in your insert. One, you can use the main one as a template, and you can also put a new insert inside the table and then drill from underneath. So at this point I remade the insert, and now it's time to make the first one for the circular saw. So before cutting into the insert, just make sure the body of the saw does clear everything while going down into the insert. Since this part needs to be accurate, we need to make sure that the blade is perpendicular to the front edge of the bench. And I'll accomplish that by using a framing square. So as shown in the video, I'm going to use 2 pieces of material with straight edge, and this should act as a guide to help me control the circular saw. If you notice, the back of the saw is facing the front of the workbench. Now the reason for this is once the saw is flipped upside down, this is where the blade is going to be. Now before making the cut, if you notice, I do have the blade guard clamped out of the way so that I can see what I'm doing. I made the blade slot approximately 2 inches longer than it should be, and doing so should give you clearance when you mount the saw from underneath. In earlier videos, I did make some holes inside my saw, which I'm planning to utilize in this case, so you may have to drill new holes in your saw base. Now I'm going to drill out the marks I made, and to secure the saw to this, I'm going to use some 6/32 T-nuts.